Today on Podcast Them Down, we're talking to Pete from Intentional Trainwreck about their next album, Smokestack of Souls. Welcome to Podcast Them Down. I'm Tim Regan from US power metal band Burning Shadows, Fade to Black Metallica tribute, Dual-Violin folk metal band ISENMOR, and recently vacated Graves true zombie metal. Be sure to subscribe, like, or follow. And now, on with the show. All right, so I am here with Pete, guitarist of ISENMOR and mastermind behind Intentional Trainwreck. And we're here with Mike, who just got out of a series of panels at Comic-Con, and he's here to join me in talking to Pete about Intentional Trainwreck and their next album.
Did you bring any comics? Did you bring any comics to trade?
I you know what? I traded him with this guy, and he gave me a handshake, and it was a really sticky handshake, and I'm really regretting it. I don't know what. I did
not think you were going to say handshake.
What does handshake mean to you? It was, standard comic book con lingo.
So Intentional Trainwreck.
I'm glad that we've gotten to the part where it's already awkward. So hopefully the rest of the interview won't feel like anything I can say is as awkward as that exchange just was.
I can make it worse. Don't worry.
Just make a signal if you need it. If you need Mike to make it worse.
I'm fine with it. So
Intentional Trainwreck. Is that some kind of band or what? What is it?
It is. It is, and it's not. I mean, there was actually it was like the early 1900s. There was a guy that organized a spectacle where he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna literally just run two trains into each other full speed," and people bought tickets, and like it was like a whole spectator thing. And the end result is that there was debris that just flew everywhere for like I want to say like miles away or something, and like several people died, and it was a majorly catastrophic event. But that's not what actually I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the band Intentional Trainwreck, which is a project I've been working on for I guess about 10 years now, and we have one LP that we released in 2014 called The Accident, and we are currently working on another one called, when I say working on, I mean it's done. It's pressed. We've got all the merch pressed, everything. The Kickstarter is live. We went live 5 days ago, and we reached our goal today, actually.
Oh, hey! So you don't even need to be here.
I mean, yeah, I was like, man, this is going to be a great opportunity to make sure we can really, finally get there. And it's like, you've hit your goals. And I'm like, okay. All right.
Well, we're going for stretch goals now.
Well, right. And like, I don't know. I'm not that, like, acoustic versions of ISENMOR songs feel like they make sense. Acoustic versions of Intentional Trainwreck songs, I don't know if I could really make that work as well. I don't know. The material is like involved, it's a lot of like, there's no like, oh yeah, sing songy, like this is in G, this part's in C, this part's in B. It's like, okay, we're gonna have a riff that is in I don't know 27/8, and is going to change keys like halfway through, like twice, and that repeats twice, and then the third time you only play the first 13 notes and then do so. It's just like this constant kind of I don't know, stream of consciousness for a lot of the stuff, and then it goes back into, I guess, more followable kind of catchy hooks, so that it doesn't get too out there for people, because I don't want it to be something where people are like lost completely,
like inaccessible,
and trying to find the balance. Right, exactly. And I kind of want to. I'm trying to toe the line between, oh man, that's completely insane, and oh yeah, I could totally jam that and sing it along with my friends at a bar when we're drunk or something. It's like
so clearly this is progressive metal.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not folk metal. It's not.
That's definitely prog metal, and
well, so that could mean so many things. So.
It could. It really could. And it's an unfortunate label, because it's like, when you say prog metal, is that like, what is that, like Devin Townsend Project, or is that like Mastodon, or is that like Opeth, or is that like Periphery or Meshuggah, and like all of these bands kind of present pretty different sounding approaches to what they do. So yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of
metal.
It is kind of
it's a nebulous title
umbrella at this point.
It's just like, we do heavy stuff, and then we do a bunch of crazy other stuff that is not really specifically tied to metal, where you're like, is this metal? Oh wait, it has heavy guitars and growling. It's definitely metal. Like, and that's just what it is.
I have some questions about your writing process, actually.
Yeah.
So personally, when writing, my most successful stuff so far has always been very, how best to put it? We write a lot ahead of time before we even play a song using software. As far as intentional trainwreck goes, is it more jam based? Is it more stream of consciousness based? How do songs like how does a intentional trainwreck song come to life?
Sure. It really varies by song a lot. I'm here to talk about, I would say a lot of the times what ends up happening is I will end up writing out parts and then coming up with drum lines in software as like a not necessarily like staff sheet music, like just literally like audio generated kind of stuff with the drums, and a lot of times I'll pass that on to Patrick, my drummer, but at the same time, he'll sometimes do the same thing with me. And like there was one track on the latest album called Clocks of Doom that was essentially, he took all of the drum parts from a track he wrote with a band
that's a clock
many years ago. And
sorry,
he just sent me the drums, and he was like, he sent me the lyrics to it. And he was like, do whatever you want with the guitar. So I kind of like completely rewrote that with just, he had sent me the original song once, and I was like, okay, well, it's weird and progressive, but it's not progressive metal, and it's honestly, I wasn't that into the original version of the song. But okay, so that's just kind of one example, but I'd say that's sort of a little bit more fringe for the most part. For the latest album, I ended up writing a lot of the drums, the guitars, the bass. Kind of a lot of the songs were kind of full package. But then there were a couple of tracks where it was like maybe I would give like a general idea of how I thought some drums should sound, and I'd say, okay, Patrick, kind of do whatever the hell you want. Or, there was a couple of tracks where I just sent him just a big pile of guitar parts, and I was like, okay, vaguely do something here, then something, I don't know, figure it out. You do you, so it's every song is kind of its own special snowflake of sorts, but I'd say for the majority of the writing, I'm doing, I'm arranging all of the guitar parts beforehand in software before I'm probably going to be sending them to Patrick. And a lot of the stuff that we've been doing, and since we've had to do a lot of online collaboration, we're, doing all DIY stuff. Like, it's sometimes, even during the recording process, it's like, well, maybe, I add like a lead here or some additional vocal thing here or some additional, I don't know, tidbit of something because the song just doesn't have a complete sound.
Were you able to
in some ways
get together and like jam on them, or did these ideas come from just listening to how it was coming along?
At the beginning of the writing process, we had been coming together and kind of jamming out some parts, and a number of the parts actually came out of those kind of jam sessions. I think some of the parts on Charismatic Agenda definitely came out of some jam sessions, and then Baby Sheep Ain't Got No Teeth was a bunch of jam session stuff that kind of ended up coalescing into a song. But we had some kind of personnel issues in terms of maintaining a bass player with
I've always found bass players to be superfluous.
So
our bass player. The joke for the audience is that I play bass.
And I also play bass in the band. So wait, are you telling me that this album has a guitarist playing bass as many, many albums do?
I've never heard of it.
Or do you have a bassist?
I mean, Mike Galway is still our bass player, but was unable to make some of the recording commitments himself. So some of the tracks don't necessarily feature him. Anyway,
is he aware of this? Should I harp on this or not?
Yeah, no, he is aware.
Okay.
He has a lot going on. He's in like 4 other bands and works for the postal system. So,
I'm
like, I'll give you some leeway. It's like it's rough. It's rough. That's kind of the long and short of the I guess the writing process overall. And a lot of times it's just writing down potpourri of riffs that it's like, okay, hey, I came up with this thing, write it down. And I was using Tux guitar for the longest time, which is it's like Guitar Pro if you don't have money. So it's like, and it worked okay because
we've all.
I mean, it wasn't like I had to necessarily. And I had to necessarily share the stuff with anybody. I'm like the only guitar player in the band. Often my bass player is not even necessarily playing the bass parts. So, communicating parts was challenging sometimes.
And you played drums. So how many of the drum tracks did you play also?
Did not play any of the drum tracks. No, all of the drum tracks are by Patrick on the new album, and Patrick lends a dimension to Intentional Trainwreck that I don't know. It's like, how to describe Patrick's drumming style? It's kind of like like if you could take progressive rock and like metal and like Tom and Jerry noises of like, you know, like Tom falling down the stairs after like, you know, I don't know, running into a rake or something like that. And it's just like the guy just does like these crazy off the wall rhythms that like I would just never expect ever. And it's like, he'd be like, yeah, here, check out this new thing I did. I think it's in 25 or either that or it's in 37. And I'm like, what? Like, and a lot of times, like dissecting the things that come out of Patrick are just like, it's like, okay. I dissected it, and it turns out we're both wrong, and it was in 42. And it's like, I don't know. It's always an adventure. Kind of putting our styles together, and I think that it's reflected pretty well because the kind of stuff that Patrick plays, he's not like a typical, I guess, metal drummer. He's not a guy that focuses like exclusively on metal, like on double kick kind of stuff. You know, a lot more kind of dynamic rhythm stuff, especially with like just any of his like hand technique work stuff is. Just ridiculous stuff. So I think that people are gonna dig the new stuff at the least. Awesome. It is uniquely intentional Trainwreck.
So I was scrolling through the Kickstarter and I just noticed you end it with choo choo, which I missed that fact. Yeah, I missed that fact the first time. I really wanted to support it. So the Kickstarter has different backing levels, and I already told you I love how they're all
train themed. Yeah,
train themed. But I really just wanted to support it at the horrified onlooker tier because that was my favorite, even though it's the lowest. And then
I did not realize. I didn't realize you could. I didn't realize that Kickstarter had like an automatic thing where it adds a contribute what you want. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to add that or whatever. I'll make the horrified onlooker tier. Nobody has subscribed at that tier, but a number of people have subscribed at the donate what you want tier or what have you. So
yeah, I think.
But I felt like I should leave it in there.
Yeah, I feel like that one does not come with the album, so everyone else will be supporting it at a different one. But so. Right. Why even talk about this? You've met your goal. It took, 5 days? So I've noticed a lot of these Kickstarters, if you don't meet the goal in the first week, that's what separates it.
It just kind of peters off. Yeah.
Exactly. So you get most of your contributions at, in the front of everything, and then it just kind of, there's a long tail. And hopefully,
right.
If you don't make it in the first week, it seems like things aren't.
It just seems like it's going to drag forever. Yeah.
Yeah. So
occasionally you'll get a mad rush at the end, but that looks like it's like the bigger projects hit that sort of thing.
Yeah. So what is the Kickstarter paying for? Is it manufacturing? Is it mixing? Is it?
Yeah, it's all
digging
all the merch
out of the financial hole for making the movie? Making the album. There's a movie too.
Mostly the. Yeah, I'm right. Stretch goals. I haven't even we just made it today, literally today, and I think when you asked me if I wanted to do the podcast, I was like, okay, that'll be a great way to promote the Kickstarter that I haven't fulfilled yet. And I want to say a little bit later than that, it was just like, yeah, you hit the goal. Good job. And I'm like, all right, well, We still have merch available. A lot of it is exclusive to the Kickstarter, and mostly it's paying for. I mean, the merch fabrication, and we ended up going through 2 different PR companies to get reviews, interviews. Apparently, may have some kind of traction going on in Uzbekistan,
Of course.
which I didn't know that. I did not know that was I'm like, okay, I feel bad that I really don't know a whole lot about Uzbekistan.
For those listening carefully, you can probably hear me typing Uzbekistan and metal into Metal Archives. Actually, that's a lie because there's a drop-down list. So I don't need to type in Uzbekistan. But let's see what comes up. There are 11 metal bands on Metal Archives in Uzbekistan. Most of them appear to be in the
Maybe that's why they're so hungry for more. That's why they're so hungry for more.
Oh, so some of the Uzbeki bands names: Dark Dimension, Dry Lakes. That one's just sad. Isn't the Aral Sea over there? I'm not up on my Central Asian geography. Aral Sea. so I'll look that up. There's Iced Warm.
That's the follow-up to Iced Earth.
Right. Moment of Clarity. Clearly some Death fans. Mount Fason. I don't really get that. Oh, they moved to California. And then they moved back to Uzbekistan. Then there's Nightwind, Salupa, The Distorted Reality, Zebek, Zindan, and the last one's in Cyrillic, so I'm not going to attempt it.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yes, Uzbekistan
Actually,
is near the
might.
sea.
I might put it in Google Translate just to find out what it sounds like. But that's just me. You don't have to indulge.
Okay, it's A, and then gamma, and then O, so it's ago something, and then H, and I forget what letter H is, and then backwards N, and then backwards R. So I apologize to our listeners who know the Cyrillic alphabet, but I do not.
That's going to be a negative for me.
Oh, fuck yes. They're called Agony.
Agony. Nice.
So Uzbekistan. Oh, that's interesting.
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Totally random story. One of my few Impulse CD purchases. There's a band, and they're actually fairly well known, but from Singapore named Impiety. And the reason I got their album is the reason I know about this band and I bought this album is because I was browsing some website for CDs and I found one called Skull Fucking Armageddon. That's what it was. And it's by Impiety. And I was like, I have to buy that. There's no choice. Anyway, sorry. Totally unrelated. Continue.
No, that was worth it. So, back to the Kickstarter. So, this is why. Question for you, Pete. Why is music worth more before it exists than after it exists? Because over and over and over again.
No, I know what you're saying.
You raise
I know what you're saying.
so much
Actually,
more money. On Kickstarter than you do.
And I was looking at these other Kickstarters because I was like, well, shit, we hit the goal. Like, I guess we have to do stretch goals, and I'm like trying to like look for other bands and like kind of like what they did and see if like I can kind of like apply that model to Intentional Trainwreck. And I was looking at I think it was Tourniquet. They and like. It's one of those bands, like, I know they're like a band that's been around for some time, but like I'm not really familiar with their music, and they've been around for 31 years. I'm like, I feel kind of bad about it, but like I don't know, their Kickstarter, they had like all kinds of random shit. Like they had like, you know, like broken drums or used drumsticks, you know, signed used drum heads from the album recording process. They had like lyric sheets that had, you know, that there was like only one per song. This is what we used when we like went in and did vocals, and there might be stuff crossed out and whatever. And it's like, you're literally like, people are paying you to take your garbage. Is what that is. That is garbage.
Brilliant. That is brilliant. I love it.
I mean, it is brilliant marketing. I'm not going to knock it at all. And I'm like, damn, we should have gotten started with this whole Kickstarter process way fucking earlier and been like, yeah, we're going to record this thing, and I'm gonna save the guitar picks, like the fucking used strings, like fucking whatever, like, you know, it just seems like the more random useless crap you add, like the more people are like, yes, I want to be a part of that. I can be physically part of the album by possessing these random artifacts from it. And it's like, you know, I'm not knocking that. If it floats your boat, great. But for me, I don't even necessarily like buying CDs that much. Because I'm like, I have so much shit in my house. Like, buying more stuff, buying t-shirts, buying CDs. Like, I'm like, I kind of don't want to. I have so much of it already. I really do. And I like the whole idea of like more plastic waste or more clothing waste. You know, like we already have so
waste.
much pollution in the fucking
planet. It's not
planet.
waste, it's already made. You're making me regret supporting Intentional Trainwreck at the CD tier. So
I mean, but the thing is, that's the thing. People want it.
I do.
I'm just not. I'm not necessarily that kind. Like the whole like physical artifacts of bands for me personally is just not super important, I guess. But I know that is like a very, I think, unpopular opinion, particularly like within like the metal community. People love having their like crazy like, look at my like clear green blue splatter vinyl exclusive to, you know, and all I had to do was like, you know, extract a vial of blood and send it across the sea. And like, you're just like, man, you're really dedicated to your like metal merch. And just like for me, like I'm just like, just more stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
yes.
I think it's kind of like separating. I think you know, a lot of people pay for nothing and own nothing and listen to everything. And then you have people like me who want to be able to hold something. You know, like I want a CD. I think I told you all I got the new Liquid Tension Experiment, but I didn't get the new Liquid Tension Experiment. I got the 3-disc version that comes in a book. So I bought the like super nerd limited edition one. You know, and I have a scrapbook of set lists that I got from shows, you know, the paper set list that they tape to the stage. So, you know, I have dozens of those.
Yeah, well, and that's cool.
I like having the physical something.
I mean, I would say that from the shows that I have played, I think that's more maybe nostalgic for me. But like for shows like, I don't know, maybe for shows I've been to or something like that, like that's maybe more of a thing. But like, I don't know, there's, yeah, I don't know. Well, I did want to mention though that you know, I was like going through this whole like trying to release this Intentional Trainwreck album, and I really appreciated seeing, you know, the whole process that you guys, I guess we went through for ISENMOR, you know, releasing Shield Brother, because I was just like, you know, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I have absolutely no fucking idea what I'm doing. And the first Intentional Trainwreck album, it was just like, I think I put like a Facebook post out there and like tagged a bunch of people I thought might be interested. And
Yeah, that is a mistake I see people make. Is like, okay, our album's done, here it is. It's like,
right.
You
Right.
gotta,
And
do a little more than that.
The album's been, mixed and mastered for like almost 6 months, and it was one of those things where it's like I could just fucking release it tomorrow. I could just put it out there and whatever. But like, right, it's that concept of like, yeah, is music worth more before it's been made, before it's been released even? And it certainly seems like for the kind of music fanatic, the true music aficionado of sorts, that it absolutely is like the anticipation of like, it's the pre-order for video games. It's like, of course I'm going to pay $60 for a game that hasn't even been beta tested. I'll beta test that motherfucking shit. I don't care how many bugs it has, and I mean, it's not quite like that, but because you don't get new revisions when you're like, damn, this song sucks. Like,
download the update. It got so much
like
better.
software.
They fixed it. We need to do
imagine if music worked like software releases. Man, that would be weird. I go back to version 1. Fuck.
Well, you buy the demos and then you get microtransactions until you finally have the studio release.
Oh my God. Don't give them ideas. Don't give them ideas, Tim.
Slap a patent on that. That's my idea.
Wow.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so I mean, the first album, it was just I didn't really put any effort into kind of looking into the logistics of trying to take a release seriously, and kind of like ultimately like this go around. I mean, I still recorded and mixed and mastered all the stuff myself, but like we went through actual PR companies to try to gain a little bit more traction this time, and made the Kickstarter and made a whole pile of different ads, and I've been trying to like make sure to regularly create new content all the time, and it's just like, okay, all right, I spent like 5 hours working on music today, and I made a 30-second video that like 20 people will like, and I have to do it again like 4 more times this week or something, like just to keep the content train rolling, as it were.
It's always
holy smokestack. I mean, I don't want to go off the rails, man.
So, not to devalue your product, but what's the deal with having Kamikaze Tom on both this and your debut album? That's some bullshit. That's right. Here on Podcast I'm Down, we do the hard-hitting investigations, pointing out when a band re-records something. Nobody looked too hard into Burning Shadow's discography, because we've re-recorded things multiple. I mean, we haven't. Never happened. So anyway, is there a reason Kamikaze Tom shows up on both albums? First one not good enough?
What's that?
Was the first one not good enough?
It's really essentially a complete remix of the first one, because the first one was mixed quite poorly.
You're really
the whole first album. The whole first album, like, there's so many mistakes that I made where I just was like, I don't need to research things on the internet. Instead, I'll just stay up until 3 in the morning and just try to like figure it out on my own or something. And that was just such a stupid plan. And like, it came out all right, but like the number of things that I did wrong on the accident versus like what I ended up kind of correcting on this album. And we had kind of talked about like, what's a song that we really want to, if we could redo one of them, with like all of the stuff that we've kind of learned about how the mistakes that we made with mixing with the accident, if we could, pick a song. Kamikaze Tom, I would say, was kind of the best one, because during the accident, we actually had, during most of the recording process, we were working with a different bass player than we have now. And the only 2 tracks, there was like a ballad on there called Despair. And then there was Kamikaze Tom, which was the one track where Mike Galway got to kind of really, I think, collaboratively, write with us for like the first time. So I felt like that was kind of still appropriate, and a lot of the material on the first album was this like weird quasi mix of like original material and material from the remnants of the previous band that my drummer and bass player were in. Where like originally when I joined the band, they were called Turbomatic, and I went up there and I wasn't sure, like if I would even dig the music or whatever. And like they had sent me a MySpace page to just give you an idea of, how long ago this was. And like, I was like, okay, I'm going to go travel up to this guy's house. And it was like Patrick actually lives out in Joppa, which is, like it's like 45 minutes. It's a little bit of a hike from here. So I was like, I don't know how it's going to go. I didn't even bring my guitar with me because I was like, I have no idea. Like if like, I just, I want to get a read on the guys and whatever. And I went up to to Patrick's house, and Ian, our former bass player, was there. And this one dude, I think his name was Mike. I'm pretty sure his name was Mike.
Fucking Mike.
Was the vocalist at the time. He was the vocalist, quote unquote. He even brought a guitar with him.
Uh-oh.
I was like, interesting. Okay. And the entire time, and I was expecting, because when they sent me this thing, the demos that they had 2 guitarists on it. I was expecting to just replace one of the guitar players. And I was expecting to get to this thing and there'd be like, 3 people, like a drummer, bass player, and a guitarist. But instead it was just like a bass player, drummer, and this guy that was like, yeah, I'm doing vocals and I have my guitar with me in the case. I don't think he ever even opened the case, the guitar, the entire time we were there. He never picked up a microphone. He never did. Literally, he like sat there for an hour and then he was like, well, see you later, guys. And I was like,
I don't know. That sounds like a lead singer to
what?
me.
Maybe. He ended up working with a band called Lovey, which is a local Baltimore band. Like he's a decent vocalist and everything, but just I don't think that the kind of stuff that they were doing was kind of his vibe, so to speak. Anyway, so ended up joining the band, and we were like, well, we can just do an instrumental thing. And I was like, yeah, I mean, but the problem with instrumental things is that, like, I don't know, I have like a love-hate relationship with pure instrumental metal, or like pure instrumental music overall, because there's this somewhat lack of an ability to connect with something because there aren't words. And I feel like really, talented metal bands with like really crazy, instrumentation and stuff. It's like a lot of times I'll find myself, either getting somewhat bored because I don't know, there's not a lyrical or vocal aspect to it, or worse, I'll be like, man, that song was really great. I have no idea how to look it up. There are no lyrics. How do I even look this thing up? You know, like that's I don't know. It's frustrating. So I was like, you know, we need vocals. We absolutely have to have vocals. And then I guess, I don't know, I started doing vocals because we couldn't find a vocalist that was interested in working with the band, because the music was weird and complicated, and it's like not heavy enough to be like extreme metal, but too heavy to be like regular rock and roll. So it's like in this weird nebulous place where it's like,
that's the Ordenogan problem.
The what?
There's a power metal band called Ordenogan who played prog power, and they said on stage they're like, we're used to being the sissiest band on stage, and here we're the heaviest band at the festival. So
nice. So yeah, the first intentional Trainwreck album though was a lot of songs where it was kind of like, it seemed like they had been written by guitarists, and then drums and bass were written to them, and then the guys were like, well, those guitarists aren't in the band anymore, so you can kind of just write whatever you want. Like, okay. So it's like this weird like mishmash of like pre-written stuff and just kind of old material, and kind of halfway through the recording process, our bass player quit. So that's why we ended up having. It was I don't know, kind of it came out strangely, because like none of the stuff, I didn't feel personally, I guess, attached to a lot of the material because I hadn't really written it. And even the bass player that wrote the bass parts was no longer really attached to the music by the time we had, you know, kind of hit the studio. So I feel like the material, like, there's a lot of good material, but a lot of it is awkward, I guess. It's just like weird layers of it's like if you took a picture and then you traced it with like, you know, some rotoscoping like Illustrator stuff, and then you took out a bunch of the layers and the original picture, and then you're like, yeah, just go ahead and draw over top of this, and you're like, okay, I guess I can do that, sure. And like it turned out okay, but you know, it's definitely, I think it lacks a cohesiveness that the new album definitely has a lot more of, because I wrote most of it.
Well, nice. I'm looking forward to receiving my CD copy.
Indeed. And I don't know. Did you have anything else that you want to ask me?
I have one more thing. It's not a question, but I'll let Mike go first. Did you have anything else, Mike?
No, I'm just been along for the ride for this one. So,
so I just to end where we started. I looked up the crash you were talking about. So it's called, if you're going to look it up on Wikipedia, it's Crash at Crush. And it was a one-day publicity stunt in the U.S. state of Texas that took place on September 15th, 1896, in which two unmanned locomotives were crashed into each other head-on at high speed. An estimated 40,000 people, more people that lived in the state, in Texas's second largest city at the time, this was in Texas, attended the event. Unexpectedly, the impact caused both engine boilers to explode, resulting in a shower of flying debris that killed two people and caused numerous injuries among the spectators. It's okay to laugh at it. This happened 130 years ago. So, yeah,
Yeah. Actually, that's something that's actually come up is that we've been like, well, like what if we find like, pictures of like really cool train wrecks in the news? Like we could use that for intentions. No, we can't use it.
Yeah, it's like
in these big sets, like I don't know,
right.
Maybe.
Well, there is a great low resolution photo of the impact, and it's just like debris. Oh, and apparently the event was delayed because let's see, the crash was delayed for an hour because the crowd resisted being pressed back by the police to what was supposedly a safe distance. So, recommend the article. I'm going to do a deep dive on this because this is amazing. And I think it's a good basis for a band name, especially a weird band. So,
I mean, this particular article was not actually the basis of the band name. It was more of just like, I don't know, us doing weird stuff that, when practicing, it turns into, when we fuck up, it is monumental. Let's put it that way.
It's a great concept. How about that? All right, so to support Intentional Trainwreck reaching their stretch goals where, I don't know, they're going to send you a bag of garbage or something. I don't know yet. I find it's best to just Google Kickstarter Intentional Trainwreck. And it comes right up. There is a bit.ly link, which I don't have handy, but it has,
sure
alternating capital and lowercase letters, and it's all, But it makes sense if you look at it.
Go check us out on Instagram at just at Intentional Trainwreck and Facebook as well. Appreciate the follow and/or like
and/or pledge to support the album reaching its stretch goals, where you get cans of Monster Energy drink or something. Not a sponsor.
Cans of Monster. Yeah.
Well, I assume you're going for a Ripper vibe. Oh, and Carmex. That's going to make no sense for the longest time. If that's not a perfect way to end, I don't know what is. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Podcast Them Down. You can find Burning Shadows, ISENMOR, and recently vacated graves on Bandcamp, as well as Facebook, along with Fade the Black Metallica Tribute and Podcast Them Down itself. Until next time, keep it metal.